生息的红，嗡咕噜连生息的红，嗡咕噜连生息的红。连生息的红，嗡咕噜连生息的红，嗡咕噜连生息的红，嗡咕噜连生息的红，嗡咕噜连生息的红，嗡咕噜连生息的红。嗡咕噜连生息的红，嗡咕噜连生息的红。
阿弥陀佛，阿弥陀佛！世界各地的莲花童子们，大家早上好，午安，晚上吉祥。
Amitabha, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all Padma Kumaras around the world. I am tonight's host, TBSOU from Taiwan Dayuan Group Cultivation Association. It's the 6th day of March 2026, 7:52 p.m. and welcome everyone to join in today's learning. Every session of learning will be able to help us become firmer in our cultivation. Remember last lesson, Master Lian Wei gave us homework to observe the sounds around us. I wonder if all of you have already done your homework. Before we formally begin tonight's class, I would like to first invite all of you to share your observations in the chat to let Master Lian Wei know what kind of observations we've made. I won't read all of your messages aloud, so you can type in your observations without any self-consciousness. I'll share mine. I first observed the sound of rain because in Taiwan it has not rained for some time, and it so happened that in the past week it rained for several days. It was a small drizzle, very fine rain, and when the rain started falling, the sound of the rain, the sound of the wind blowing, the sound of birds chirping, and the sounds of cars, their horns or trumpets, a variety of sounds. And these observations were all external. Then later on, I observed the sounds within my own home, and I realized there were many different kinds of sounds. And then I observed the sounds within from my own body. So all these different kinds of sounds, I wonder whether all of you also observe the different kinds of sounds. So following this, please share your observations in the chat. And then now let me share an advertisement. In conjunction with the 8th course, Secret Sounds of Buddhism, TBSOU has launched a check-in activity and warmly welcomes all cultivation venues and disciples to cultivate our minds and learn together diligently. aligned with Grandmaster's compassionate teachings. And every month, the name lists of check-in participants will be submitted for Grandmaster's blessing. Please remember or please keep in mind to choose just one of the platforms or groups. And this lesson, as usual, will be conducted in 3 languages. So in Zoom, you can choose between Chinese, English, or Indonesian. And after the class, the video recordings of the classes in 3 languages will be uploaded onto the YouTube channel by Tribhuda Foundation's Education Department, and you'll be able to see all the lessons conducted. In last week's lesson, Master Liang Wei taught the part 1 of chapter 1, the fundamental nature, the fundamental meaning and purpose of Fan Bai, and introduced the origin of Fan Bai and its significance, and also explained the purpose or mission of offering to the Buddha through sound, and quieting our hearts, focusing our minds. And during the Q&A, what left a great impression on me was because of the Pama Kumara's questions, some people were concerned that they didn't really have good voices. And Master Liang Wei said that no matter how we sing, it will be correct. If our minds are gentle, then the sound will naturally be gentle. When our hearts become more and more pure, we can rely on sound to produce an upright sound, a harmonious and elegant sound, a clear sound, a deep and rich sound, an all-pervasive sound. And this is the cultivation of Fan Bai, Buddhist chanting, or the secret chants of Buddhism. I feel that this course can help us in our cultivation of the Dharma. In the process, I would observe when reciting mantras, I would be a little bit more focused and pay attention to my own voice. And I feel that this will help my own cultivation to become more focused. And I think this is great. So I hope that in every class, we will be able to first remove the hindrances, obstacles in our lives, and learn together. Thank you, everyone. And I wonder if you have typed in your observations of the sounds around you in the chat. You can feel free to type as much as possible, so to allow Master to know what kind of observations we have made, because after the class formally begins, we might not be able to invite Master Liang Wei to take another look at our messages again. Okay, we have 1 more minute before the official start of the class. May everyone please prepare yourselves. Make sure you have your paper and pen to take notes. Make notes of the most important points that leave a deep impression on you, and the points that resonate most deeply with you. Okay, thank you, everyone. Today, Master Liang Wei will continue to teach chapter 1, part 2, and the time is now 8 p.m. sharp. Tribhuda School Online University, the 8th course on the Secret Chants of Buddhism officially begins. And first of all, let us put our palms together reverently to pay homage to our lineage root guru, His Holiness Living Buddha Liansheng, pay homage to the lineage deities, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, the triple gem of the elder, and we pray for their great blessing for tonight's class to be auspicious and perfect. Please form the Pamakumara Mudra and let's recite Root Guru's heart mantra, the short version, 7 times.
持咒 Om Guru 莲生 Siddhi Hom 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 Om Guru 莲生 Siddhi Hom。阿弥陀佛，尊敬的授课导师
most respected teaching master, Master Lian Wei, TBF chairman, Master Cheng Shu, Master Lian He, all masters, all senior reference, Dharma instructors, Dharma assistants, and all Pamakumaras across the 3 platforms of Zoom, Facebook, YouTube. Auspicious greetings to everyone. Tonight, Master Liang Wei will teach part 2 of chapter 1, fusing Fan Bai with spiritual cultivation, practicing sacred sound in walking, standing, sitting, and reposing. And now, with our most radiant, beaming smiles and most resounding applause, let's welcome and reverently invite Master Lian Wei to teach tonight's class. Okay, can everyone hear my voice? Okay. I was just looking at the chat window in our Zoom session on everyone's observations of sounds, and I also saw people writing sounds of vehicles, the sound of the wind. This is the start of our learning because we need to be able to distinguish. This is the beginning, it's not the end. The end is not discriminating among sounds. But we need to first observe sounds so that we know how to regulate our own recitation of mantras, the kind of sounds we are emitting, and the kind of mind from which we are reciting these mantras. And tonight's class is about fusing Fan Bai with spiritual cultivation, practicing sacred sound in walking, standing, sitting, and lying down or reposing. And today's class, among the 36 classes, Fan Bai is not it's not merely an art of chanting, but even more so the actualization of a practitioner's spiritual cultivation throughout daily life. When we integrate pure sacred sound into walking, standing, sitting, and lying down, and into our group practice or rituals, sound becomes a way to tame or regulate our body and mind. The first is to gather or focus the mind so that She Xin is gathering the mind, helping it to become focused. And from this point, we can enter meditation, transform 1 into 0, and then integrate or merge into the emptiness. And it also helps to nurture or cultivate right mindfulness through sound. When we replace distracted thoughts with sound, when our mind is on sound, it can help us to, some people have a lot of afflictions all day long. So we need to replace all these distractions or distracted thoughts with sound or mantra. We also need to understand the fundamental nature of Fan Bai. Fan Bai is one of the 5 sciences. It is the science of sound, and The five sciences include the science of sound or linguistics, the science of logic, the science of arts, crafts, technology, the medical science, and spiritual science. Naming spiritual science refers to the inner light within you, awakening to your becoming enlightened. And the science of logic is about cutting off negative heretical views. And the science of sound includes the sound of linguistics, words, mantra, recitation, and so on. And the main point is through sound, it allows us to proclaim scriptures and Dharma teachings correctly without error. So when we learn Fan Bai, we are also learning the science of sound among the five sciences, and the fourth medical science, Yifangming, and Gongqiaoming, the science of art, crafts, and technology, is about adorning or our cultivation venues and the Dharma realms. For the science of sound, through pure sound, when it connects with our pure Dharma nature, we learn how to observe inwardly. And before we go deeper, there was also mention of purification of our three karmas. The core principles of cultivation through sound. I will go faster over these earlier points, and main points are further behind. How do we use sound to practice cessation and visualization, or 止观, shamatha, and vipassana? The core principles of cultivation through sound is to purify our body, speech, and mind, to cease afflictions, to focus our mind, which was what I mentioned just now about concentration. And then after that, only after that are we able to enter into zero. From a lot transforming into one, transforming to zero, and then finally we're able to see our own inner Buddha nature. It is a pure Dharma sound. It is an antidote to the three karmas. So we have the using Fan Bai to transform our three karmas. So when we praise the merits of Buddhas and recite sutras, we are actually refraining from harsh speech, false speech, frivolous speech, and the voice becomes a vehicle for pure Dhamma sound. And then purification of body karma. When we practice Fan Bai, our bodies are in proper dignified postures, and from this dignified presence, deportment, for instance, when we make prostrations with reverence, it allows us to generate reverence as well. In our minds, when they are focused on the dignified forms of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, it will also allow us to, we also reflect upon the meaning of the scriptures, the sutras, and our restless, scattered mind is able to rest and abide in right thoughts or right mindfulness, and we are able to learn the wisdom of sages. When you hear this, you might wonder, it seems very simple to attain purity of body, speech, and mind. But a lot of people, when they practice Dhamma, in fact, they are just following superficially the ritual procedure. However, I don't like to use this term, but I can't find another better word. Their practice is very hollow. It's not substantial. It's like a circle with it's empty inside. So our speech karma, when we are praising the Buddhas, can I ask, is your voice really praising or extolling the virtues of the Buddhas? When you recite sutras, do you truly understand the Dharma in the scriptures, the sutras? And are you really proclaiming the Dharma to the invisible beings? For instance, when you recite the Heart Sutra at the Bardo Deliverance altar, is the sound that you are emitting hollow, or does it have the sound of Dharma within the sound? This is a great question. So although a lot of people think that purity of body, speech, and mind is very easy, many people just engage at the superficial level. Although their mouths are moving, but their minds are scattered, or they are thinking of this or that, tomorrow's work, what are you having for dinner? And when you're reciting mantra very quickly, like pressing the mantra counter, the counter very quickly, very fast, which line of mantra is really substantially generating merit? A lot of times it's just remains at the superficial level. It sounds very simple, but actually doing it is not that easy. So the main point of this class or course is, how do we focus our mind, our heart, to seize or stop at a particular point, and then from there observe our minds, our inner state, the benefits of the practice and cultivation of Fanbai. The first is an offering to the Tathagatas, receiving the Buddha's blessing and protection. This was mentioned also in lesson 1. The second point, praising the Buddhas and knowing their virtues. This is one of the key points in this class. When you praise the Buddhas, there are a lot of praise verses. Why do I mention the part about stopping at the superficial level? For instance, the incense praise or in praise of purity. Do you have a heart of praise? You can raise your hand, or in the chat, leave a message saying that you do. Then, do you know what the incense praise is praising? We have sung it for 20, 30 years, and everyone knows how to sing it. What exactly are we praising when we sing the incense praise? Does anyone know? This is a big question, right? We all think that we know how to sing it, sing the incense praise, sing in praise of purity. But what exactly are we praising? Is it just enough to know how to sing it? When we sing the praises of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, theoretically, we should know what virtues of the Buddhas that we are praising. When we offer sound through our voices, we have not really fulfilled the actual praise. So the next lesson, we will go more into the sound fan in. What is the incense praise? And in praise of purity, really praising. And this praise that we have sung for 20 to 30 years will have a new understanding of these verses. Then when we progress later on to the use of Dharma ritual instruments, we will be able to see whether we can transform something that was sung very superficially in the past into something that is more substantial. And when we sing repeatedly, when we deepen our understanding of the Buddha's Bodhisattvas' virtues, their compassion, and their wisdom, there is another part at the back of the second point, reciting sutras and understanding the Dharma. When we recite the Amitabha Sutra, the Kishigarba Sutra, or for instance, the Heart Sutra as mentioned earlier, do we really understand what it means? Do you have insight into what is meant by nothing to be gained? When reciting Amitabha Sutra or Kishigarba Sutra, there is a lot of Dharma within. When we don't know these meanings, then we are just chanting them, but without true understanding. So it's like hollow and insubstantial. And it's not able to give rise to its true function and open up our wisdom. And this is something regrettable. And for Heart Sutra, we will go further into it in a class later on. How to recite sutra, it will be in lesson 12 or 13, the yoga of flaming mouth ritual, where we talk about the Amitabha Sutra, how to recite the Amitabha Sutra and keys and
犯拜的修行功德跟利益，第三个写的是赞佛之德、诵经之法。问题就是我们不晓得自己在赞叹什么，也不知道经文里面的法到底是在哪里。这个希望我们了解了以后，这个可以成为我们的功德跟利益自己跟他人的把犯拜当成一个了解。这个可以利益自己跟他人啦，好，他的功德跟利益。好，第四个庄严道场设受。
The fourth point, adorning cultivation venues, drawing and receiving sentient beings. This was mentioned in the previous lesson. When we are focused, we will be able to seize external affinities and pacify our inner selves, our minds, and the sound that we emit. It will be a Dharma sound with energy, which allows listeners to be comforted or become calm and give rise to a mind of wanting to learn the Dharma. So this is an expedient means. And when we invoke the deities, we are able to move them to descend, and you will be able to pray for the pacification, pacifying, enrichment, harmonization, and subjugation for ascension beings. When we praise Buddhas or recite sutras, your tongue faculty will naturally be pure because you are not speaking, you're not creating negative speech karma like harsh speech, etc. And you will have to use your diaphragm to, and it will open up your chest or your lungs, exercise your lungs. The next slide. In daily life, its position of the position of fan bai in our daily life. There are 5 sessions in Sutrayana Buddhism. How do they cultivate? These 5 sessions, what exactly are they doing? Let's briefly understand. So what kind of sutras do they recite? How exactly do they practice? In Chinese Buddhism,
那第一个就是他们
the first,
每日是他们每日的必持功课。我现在讲的是一般的这个。
these are their daily essential practices. I'm talking about Sutrayana temples in general, not about our tantric temples
定时定刻的修行，目的在规范身心。
Usually,
好，这个跳过去哈。
they will the purpose of these sessions are to regulate the body and mind and prevent distraction, to foster meditation, cultivation,
将佛的功德智慧内化。刚刚我比较少
to internalize the merits and virtues of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
在念，不管是
When
念赞记或者是念
we
经的
recite
时
a
候，
praise
我
verse
们
or
只是很
sutra,
粗浅的把它念完
if
做完，
we
但
recite
是
it
我
very
们并没有
superficially
真正的
and have not,
等于是只有吃到嘴巴，但是我们还没有开始进到胃里面去消
it's
化，
the analogy
也
is more
没有
like
到
the
小
we
肠
have
里面去吸收。
consumed the
所
food,
以
but
我
it
们
has not
没
yet
有
entered
把
our
佛的
digestive
功德
system,
跟他的智慧
and we have not
内
yet
化为我
absorbed
们所
the
愿。
wisdom of the Buddhas
我
and
简单讲一
Bodhisattvas.
个，就是以前我在
So,
人间工作
to
的
say
时
it
候，
simply,
我
in
除
the
了
past when I
在
worked
现
at
场开示
Enlightenment
这样子的
Magazine,
开示以
apart
外，
from
之后
listening
我
to
还要
Grandmaster's
重新的，
discourses,
所以我
I
们
would
每
also
个字都要
type
读，
in the
所以因为我们
transcript.
听一听，反复
I
的再
would
听，
listen
老师讲的
repeatedly
话，我
to
记
his
录下来，
discourses to
并
make
且记
sure
录的。
that my
那我就
transcripts
已经
are
看第
accurate.
2遍、第3
So
遍。
I
之
would
后
listen
出版以
2,
前
3
出
times,
刊以
and
前，我们要
before
教，
publication,
我
I
们还
would
要做
proofread
第1教、第2教、第3教。
several
所以
times,
师尊的开
once,
示，我大
twice,
概
3
10
times.
个开示
So
要看5次以
Grandmaster's
上。
discourses,
看了5次以
I
后，
would
我才慢
read,
慢的
I would
去
go over
理
them at
解
least
这个
5
东西。
times.
所以
And
当我
only
们在
after
学习的
that
时候，
would
听
I
1次是不够的。
truly begin to develop an
我们的
understanding of
唱
what he
赞
was
记，
saying.
第1次赞佛
So
祖
when
的时
we
候，赞佛
praise the
菩萨，
Buddhas, the
你
first
是赞
time
不
we
出
praise
真
them,
正的，发不
you
出真正的
will
赞
not
叹，
really be able
要
to
去理
truly
解的话，
praise if
之
you
后才有
truly,
办法，
and only if you
好，才能
if you
够
truly want to understand,
培
you
养
have to
出来我们真正
um,
的产生作用，才会
repeat
有
it
这
a
个
few
真正的
times
正面
before
的
you
能力
are
出来。
truly able
第
to
3
generate
个，他们修行
stability
就是
and
消
right
除业障、
mindfulness.
增长
It's
福慧，
also
利
to
益众生，广度有情。
remove
他们晚课
hindrances.
当中有做蒙山施食，哈，
In
这
their
个施
evening
食就是
recitation,
给
they
予有
do
情的
a
众生，
Mongshan
早斋、午
food
斋、
offering
晚课
ritual.
都有。
There
我们
is
在有
a
斋
morning
念佛的时
recitation,
候，
evening
会去
recitation.
比较一下
Um,
蒙山施食跟瑜伽咽口有什么不同。
the
好，再来，这个是他们的重要的修行传统，所以是他们的传承跟
there are these are important sessions in
上
their
面是讲
tradition and culture.
修行的作
So
用跟内容，下面就是讲他们的功课。
here
这
we
个其实
talk
跟我
about
们
their
关联不大，
homework.
所以我讲的
It
比较
doesn't
快。
have a very
他们
deep
的
connection with us,
午
so
堂课
I
就是
will
包
go
括
over it more
早殿、
quickly. So they have
早殿、
morning
午殿、晚
hall, a
殿
morning
跟
session,
早斋过
the
堂、午斋
noon
过堂。
offering, and breakfast,
我
noon
跳
offering,
过哈。早殿
noon
做这个大家
session,
理解
evening
就好。早
sessions.
上凌晨3点到
So
5
at
点，
3 to
看
5
在
a.m.
大
in the
殿集
morning,
合，
at
先
the
诵
main
了
hall, they
文
will
赞，
gather and they will
降伏
recite the
万缘，
Shurangama
后
Sutra
诵大悲
to
咒10小咒心
focus the
经。
mind.
早斋过堂
Then
做
they
完了
will,
早课，才开始用早斋。
after
做
their
早斋的时候，
after that,
他
then they will
们
have
有一
breakfast,
个
and
仪轨叫做20
they
个
also
拜
have
礼，
a ritual
好，
where
就是要供佛出食，
they
就
will
是
make
施食的
offerings
意
to
思，
the
回向
Buddhas and
发愿。
also
之
food
后午
offerings
斋
to
过
invisible
堂做
beings.
同样的事，
And
也就是
then
我们在
during
大雄宝殿做
their
的
lunch,
台湾
or
礼藏寺
it's
做的午
the
供。
same thing,
之
it's
后还
equivalent to
有
the noon offering that we do at
午
Taiwan
就
Lizang
是下
Temple.
午的时候
And then in
会
the
有誓愿
afternoon, there
者，
is 午
然后
殿,
再来是
which
晚殿，也就
is
是
an
晚
antidote
课
to
会有施食、诵经、阿弥陀经、往生咒、礼佛、大忏悔文，这个是做忏悔的部分。
they also have an
这
evening
个就是
ritual.
他们的午堂课。好，了解一下
And
就好。
these are their 5 sessions, 5
我现在
daily
要讲
sessions.
这个
Just
他
having a
们
brief
如何
understanding
在
of this.
午堂课当中
During these 5
梵
sessions,
拜来做修行，也就
they
是我们
use
今天要讲的
Fanbai
重点。
Buddhist chanting as a means of cultivation, and this
下
is
一
the main
页，
point of what
刚刚
we're
那个我都跳过
teaching
了。
today.
梵拜的实修意义，这个是我们今天课程的重点。重
The
点在于一生受
significance
心转
of
入安住，
Fanbai
这个是
as
什么意
cultivation.
思？也就是说，梵
How
拜
do we
是
rely
受
on
心
sound
修行
to
的重要法门。
gather our
如
minds
果我
or
们的
focus our
一
minds
生
to
能够
enter
依正面正直的
peaceful
清
abiding?
净发心而行，就能够调和身心，引导入定，不流于身相之执。所谓的依生摄 色心转入，
if you
安住
are
业
relying on sound. For instance, when I invited everyone to listen to the sounds within and without, you are relying on sound to focus your mind. When we recite Buddha's names, recite mantras, and you focus on sound, this is a form of concentration, and it will gather our discursive, distracted thoughts and help it to become focused and peaceful, or stop or cease and abide in one. Grandmaster has taught that when he is entering meditation, he would light one stick of incense, and it has a red dot, and he will look at that red dot to just to cease or to concentrate. So before we enter meditation, we have to first learn to focus. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to enter samadhi or meditation at all. So when we learn anshi, we are learning meditation, we are learning samadhi. When we rely on sound, eating is one state, the state of one. It's 止, which is cessation. You are relying on these conditions to focus our mind. For instance, when you hear the sound of the wind, then the sound of the wind or the sound of birds, they are your conditions to focus the mind. When you are reciting mantras, that is the condition, that's the object of the condition, or if you listen to the sound of Dharma instruments, the rhythm of the Dharma instruments, you can also focus on the rhythm or the meaning of the sutras to allow our distracted minds to be gathered, to become more focused, to become pacified and peaceful. In this state, the merit during this process of converging the mind, focusing the mind, it is just a temporary way of suppressing our afflictions. However, it has not truly resolved our afflictions. When we recite the names of Buddhas, or when we focus our minds on their names, however, discursive thoughts would arise when we think of problems at work or problems at home with our family. These thoughts will still arise. So in the process of cessation or shamatha, if you are able to quickly realize it, then you will be able to stop. We can try later. So the first point is what we mentioned just now about relying on sound to stop, to 止, to cease. There is also mention of the resonance between sound and the body and mind. Remember last lesson, there was the use of Om mantra sound, mantra syllable sound. Here, put your attention fully on the resonance, and this becomes a 所缘, a kind of condition, or focus your mind on that resonance, and then you'll be able to gather all your attention on this point. Let's try. Feel your mind being gathered and the vibrations in your mouth expanding into your surroundings, into the space.
有感觉到你的
Did you
念头
feel
想要
your thoughts
收起来变成只有共振吗？好，所以在持咒的
becoming
时候可
gathered
以这样用。
and being focused
再
on
来，
the
我们再来
vibrations or
练习
resonance?
第二个
Let's
音声摄
practice
心
the
这
second
个
point.
摄心在音声里面。刚刚我们已经练习了共振，好，我们接下来要练习的这个是，比如说平常
The
大家
next
听
thing
到
that we
学
are
生在
going to
念
practice
嗡
when we
阿
hear
巴扎
Grandmaster
嗡满
recite a
就是
mantra.
嗡阿贝拉吽看扎拉手哈，这个就是文殊师利菩萨
These
的
are
咒语。
mantras
这
of
个是
Manjushri
配合
Bodhisattva.
阿弥陀佛在做求法
This
的时
is
候。好，
in
嗡阿拉巴
conjunction
扎
with
那这个
Amitabha
是
Buddha's
文殊师利菩萨
deliverance
的
mantra.
心咒。好，我挑这个咒
And
是因
these
为它的共鸣
mantras are
跟共
Manjushri
振度比较高，比
Bodhisattva's
其他的
mantra.
心咒高。我们先来练习，就是比如说这个嗡阿拉巴扎
For
那
instance,
底这个字是文殊师利菩萨的
the
种子
syllable
字，
D
它的
is
种
the
子
seed
在于
syllable
开
of
智慧，配合
Manjushri
我们今
Bodhisattva,
天
which
讲的
opens up our
嗡。
wisdom. And in
止是
conjunction
修
with
定，观是
Zhi
修
Guan,
慧，智慧的
Zhi
慧。好，所
is
以我们配合这个
shamatha
底
is to
来做
cultivate
开智慧。那待会把最后一个我
meditation
们在
and
念嗡阿拉巴扎那底的时候，
vipassana.
把你的
One
心
visualization or observation
放
is
在每
to
一个
cultivate
音。比如说我
wisdom.
们待会会先念嗡，哦，对，顺
We'll
便再告
first
诉你，
recite Om.
在很多持
Um,
咒的
and by the way, let me share with
种
everyone
子字里面，
a
咒
lot
词
of
里面，
mantra
第一
seed
个字它有
syllables.
所谓的
The
母音
first
或者不能讲母音，那个叫什么？对了，总之用母音来讲好了。
it's
嗡
like
这个
a
字
mother sound,
它
like
发音会比较
Om
长，还有后面
is
的那个
its
种子
pronunciation
字
is
有
slightly
时候也
longer,
会拉长
and
音，
the
嗡
seed syllable
啊
at the back,
吽，这三个字都是属
like
于拉
Om
长音的，有的是短音。这个我们在
Home.
讲
All
这个咒
these
语
these
学
three
的时候
syllables
会
are
讲。
pronounced
好，
in a
所以
longer
每一个嗡
for a longer
阿
time.
拉巴扎那底，我现在不是还没有开始念呢。好，我
I
的意思
haven't
是
started
每
reciting.
一
My
个
point
音你
is
都要
each
去
sound you have to
印到心上。
imprint them
嗡
upon your heart.
阿拉巴扎那底，嗡阿拉巴扎那底，嗡阿拉巴扎那底，嗡阿拉巴扎那底。好，大概是这样，或
Okay,
者是
something
大
like
家
that.
比较熟的。
Or it can be
阿弥陀佛，
a mantra that you're more familiar
阿
with.
弥陀佛，每一个音，每一
Every
个
sound,
字你都要
every
跟
mantra
上，
syllable, you have to
这
follow
个
it.
叫做专注于它的
This
音
is
声。我们再来
concentrating
念
on
3
its sound.
次的阿弥陀佛心
And
咒，
let's
大家
recite
试
3
试看
times
自己，不是听
Amitabha's
我念。
mantra.
好，
You can try it
自
yourself.
己
Don't
注
just
意
listen
自
to
己
me.
的念头
Observe
有
how
没
your
有
own
摄心
thoughts
在每一
are
个
they
音声，
focused?
每一
Your
个
how your
咒
mind is
字。
it
好，我们
focused
念
on
3遍，
each
观
syllable
察
of the
自己
mantra?
有没有这
Recite
个
3
摄
times
心
and
的
observe
心。
yourself.
嗡阿弥陀佛，嗡阿弥陀佛，嗡阿弥陀佛。好，为什么要解
Okay,
释这个事
why
情？
why do I need to
因
explain this?
为很多人
Because
念
a
咒
lot
的
of
时候，
people, when
他
they
会去
recite
拿一个
mantra,
计数器，
they
嗡阿
take a
弥陀佛，
counter.
嗡阿弥陀佛，嗡阿弥陀佛，嗡阿弥陀佛，嗡阿弥陀佛。他只是一直这样
They
念，
are just
可是
repeating the
有没有
mantra
产生作用？
continuously, but does it
我
give
不能
rise
说
to
没有，
its function? I
但
can't
是
say
作
no,
用比想
but
象
its
中的要
function
低，
is
因为它也
much
没有摄
lesser
心，
than what it could be because
没有
they
让你
didn't
的
focus
念
their
头能够
mind.
专一，也
It
没
didn't
有
allow
这
their
个
thoughts
对
to gather,
阿弥陀佛的那一种
and
感情。
there was
的
no feeling
音
for
频的一些
Amitabha
振
Buddha, for
磁
Amitabha
场
Buddha's
频率
frequency,
都没有在里面，
frequency
只
is
是拼命的按计数器，嗡咕噜连声西地，嗡咕噜连声西地，为了要800万遍，
just to
可
hit the
是
target number, the
没有作
goal
用，
of
哈，这
mantra
个是一个
recitations,
问题。
8 million times.
所以这个摄心有2个
So
方
this
式，刚
part
刚我
about
列的，第一
focusing the
个
mind,
用
there are
共振的
2
方式，
ways
你去抓，
mentioned
把
about
心印在共
resonance.
振。第二个
the
你每一个音声都把它抓住。
all vibrating together. The second is to capture every sound of the mantra.
需要去注意的
And
是只有口
when you are
才
reciting
可以
mantra, you need to pay
最后
attention that
才
you're
能
not
够
just
达
reciting
到
with your
第
mouth.
三
Then
因
only
声
then
而
can
入
you
转向离声安住，也就是
from
止
can you
的神
enter
话。
through
我们一
sound
定要先住
to
到一，才有可能再回到零。
you have to first go
零
to
变成
one in
一
order
变成
to go
很多，
to
我们现在
zero.
从很多要先
So
回到
we
一，
are
才有办法
trying
回到
to
零。
transform
进入这
many
个
into
空性，才
one
有
and
办法回
transform
到
one
零。
into
所以这个
zero.
专
And
一
only
是
then can we
要
enter
一直训
meditation.
练的。
So
而
samadhi
且
needs to be practiced continually,
你可能我顺便
continuously.
提醒大家哈，刚
And let
刚
me
可能
also, by the way,
一
remind
次只
everyone,
用阿弥陀佛，
3 times
大
of
家
Om
觉
Mani
得我
Devas
可
say,
以
you
专
might
注
think
在
I
我的
can
音声当中。
focus on the sound. However,
你念到第10
when
遍的时候，
you
你的这
recite
个
it
念头
10
能够
times,
涣散，也就是
maybe your
说
mind
这
becomes
个
distracted
专
again.
一能
This
够持续
state of
多久，
concentration,
这个
how
也
long
是
can
你
it
自己要
last?
去观察的
You need to
部
also
分。
observe
我
this
现在
for
讲的
yourself.
观察，
I'm
也就
talking
是牵涉
about
到下一
observation,
个我们要讲
and
的
this
关
is
照。
related to the
你在
next
做
part
的过
about
程当中
observation
去
or
关照自己。
visualization,
好，
vipassana,
这个
observing
刚
yourself
刚我没有讲完哈，从一声而入转向离
from
声安住
entering
止的深化
the
这个
mind
地方。
of entering through sound to
最后这第3点哈，以后我会
dwell
把
in
这个
peaceful abiding.
文集再拿出来
This is a
给大家
deepening
看。
of shamatha.
我们虽然在止当中，
Although
止
you're in
在
a
这个
state
声
of
音或者
cessation,
止
your
住
mind is
专注在这个咒语，
fixed
但
on
是
the
到
sound
最
of
后，
mantra. But
我们如果要入禅
at the
定
very
的
end,
话，
when you are going
放
into
下
samadhi,
对
you
音
need
声、
to
对
let go
唱诵、对
of
持咒，乃至对观
mantra
想这
chanting,
件事
let
情的
go
执
of
着。
even
观想
visualization,
本尊、
attachment
观
to
想根本上
um,
师这些全部都
idam,
要放下，
visualizations of guru, all of these need
才
to be
有
let
办
go.
法回到
Then
零。也就
only
是
then will you
说，
be able to enter into zero.
我们不是否定这个
In
东
other
西，
words,
我
we're
们
not
借它来说
negating
归
the
到
function of
一的
sound,
时候，
but
之
we are
后要
using
回到
it,
零，
relying
把
it
印
to
声丢
reach
掉，也要把持
the
咒
state
丢
of
掉，
one.
观想全部都丢掉，
And then after that, we
这
need
个才
to
有办法走
throw
到最后
away
面的
that
止的深化，也就是
sound
零。好，下一页。
to reach zero.
刚我们在讲说要去关照，好，
When we talk
由
about
止入观，这是泛拜的观
from
修当
Shi
中，
to
可
Guan,
能对啊，我
from
之前一直在讲
shamatha
泛
to
拜，可是
vipassana,
只
or
有
from
禅诵，
cessation
因
to
为其实泛
visualization
拜的
observation.
修行有
Um,
很多种，好，除了
there
刚
are
我们
many
在学
ways
习以
of
外，现在在学观，依生起观，由生入观有4个，由相入观、随文入观，还有
there are
情
many
绪
ways
跟
of
关系。
entering.
回到第一句，我们刚刚讲观是什么意思？由止入观，观指的就是觉照、
How do we
关
enter
照，也就是修
visualization
观。
through
我们
cessation?
要先理解这个意思。
Um,
也就是说，泛拜不只可以作为止，
One or
作为
visualization
摄心
is
的依缘，那个
um,
缘分的缘，也可以
to
修观，
cultivate wisdom.
修止也可以修观。进一步运用音声、文句、
Awareness
法
and
义
its meaning is
跟
awareness and
观想
observation.
来升起我们内在的对这个觉性、觉照的升起，好，照向我们自己的内在，
It
我们的
illuminates
自
our
信的
inner
本
self,
性。
our Buddha nature.
为什么要先
Why do we need to first
我止根
cease
才可
or
以
止？
观哈？比如说一个水里面很浑浊的
For
水，
example,
它是在
water
搅
that
动的
is
过程
very
当中，
turbid,
你是看不清这个
maybe it
水
has
里
a lot
面
of
的
sediment and
它
very
的玻
murky,
璃
you will
体，
not be able to
所
see
以
things
它一定要
clearly
先沉
in
淀，
for
沉淀
instance,
的
a
过
glass
程
of
才
water.
会止。
So the sediment
要
needs
先
to
止了
settle,
之后，才能看到水
and
中有什
only
么。
when, so this is like
对吧？
zhi or cessation, and
所
only
以这
when
个
the
观
water
的
becomes
根本
clear will we be
在
able to
观
see.
什么？这
So
需
what
要回
exactly
到
are
我
we
们在修行。
observing? What, when we
刚
talk
刚
about
止，
cultivation of
我们
wisdom,
只
what
是
are we
把这些
cultivating?
疑惑、迷惑
Zhi or
是先把它
cessation is
压住、
merely
俘获，先把它
suppressing
压住。
our
修会的功德
doubts
就
or
是会
afflictions.
断惑，把它
Wisdom allows us to cut thoroughly our afflictions. So when we talk about the dual employment of cessation and visualization, it's cultivation of meditative stability and wisdom. Let me add a point. When we are practicing cessation and visualization, we need to maintain a state of awareness. And when you're observing, you also need to have cessation. So there's shamatha within vipassana, there is vipassana within shamatha. So they are within each other. When you recite Om Ami Devase 3 times, when you cease, how long can you cease? When does a thought enter your mind? This is when you observe your mind. The moment you realize a thought has entered your mind, a discursive thought, you need to enter into cessation. And when you enter cessation, you need to also maintain a high level of awareness, observation. So they need to be in a state of balance and not doing without each other. The Buddha nature is observing from sound to contemplation or visualization. The first thing we're observing is the arising and cessation of sound. You are aware of the arising and ceasing of sound when listening to Fan Bai. How the sound arises from nothing to something and then goes back into nothing. And its impermanence. For example, I'm talking now, every sound I utter, it will cease. This is from when we are young to growing older, and then we become older, and then we fall sick and we pass on. That is transition is much longer, but sound is in this world, it's always present in different forms of sound. It's very easy to observe the impermanence of sound, how it's related to our thoughts. Like our thoughts, it arises from emptiness or nothing, and then it suddenly appears. And after I finish this sentence, the previous sentence has gone, it has vanished, and I'm already speaking the next sentence. Isn't it very amazing or inconceivable? So this allows us to cultivate our wisdom, to you will observe, for instance, Grandmaster has mentioned 缘起性空, the empty nature of things that arise with conditions. When we observe their impermanence, their arising and ceasing, we will develop true wisdom. And through sound and thoughts, and we pay attention to their arising, cessation, and impermanence. When we hear or listen Buddha nature, it will our sound and the sound of Fan Bai Buddhist chanting has arising, ceasing, and impermanence. However, the origin or its origin is emptiness. It comes from emptiness and goes back into emptiness. This is sound. Thoughts are the same. For instance, we might give rise to a thought of affliction. Where does it come from? It spontaneously appears. You might think, what are we having for dinner? And then that sound then that thought disappears back into emptiness. This is relying on sound to observe arising and cessation. And we are also able to see our ability to listen and to see the immovable nature, quality of Buddha nature. That was a little bit deeper, so you might not be able to fully understand. The person told me that he listened to the first lesson 4 times. So if you don't fully understand right now, you can listen to the lesson again. What I mentioned just now about shamatha and vipassana, cessation and visualization. The connection between sound and Buddha's bodhisattvas. The first is when you visualize with Buddha's name, recitation of Buddha's name. This is not mantra recitation. Mantra recitation, you have to first visualize the deity and then recite mantra. When you're reciting mantra, you don't have to visualize because you are trying to focus on the mantra. However, when chanting the names of Buddhas, you can first visualize Amitabha Buddha, for instance, abiding above your crown, or the majestic scenery of the Pure Land. Then relying on the Buddha's majestic form or the beautiful Pure Land, your mind becomes settled and abides in that visualization. Didn't I mention just now that you have to first cease before you can observe or to give rise to a mind of praise or the spirit of wanting to take refuge. We cannot stop at this state because you have to ask questions about why are they majestic? Why are Buddhas so magnificent? Because Amitabha Buddha's heart is a heart of benefiting sentient beings, and for the sake of sentient beings, he established a Pure Land. His aspirations, his vows, and his actions to actualize his vows are vast and extensive. And in the process of visualization, I also have to reflect upon myself. How about myself? Am I dignified, or is my heart vast and boundless like Amitabha Buddha, wanting to benefit sentient beings? You have to start thinking. We can't just learn Buddhism with our mouths. We also need to have actions that actually benefit sentient beings. When we learn the teachings, but we also need to apply them and carry out the teachings. When we praise Buddhas with praise verses, praise their virtues, for example, Guanyin Bodhisattva's compassion, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva's compassion. Similarly, we also need to be compassionate. Grandmaster's vow of not forsaking a single sentient being, or Manjushri Bodhisattva's vow of wanting to deliver those who try to harm him, kill him, the karmic creditors. When I saw this vow, I was stunned. What kind of vow or aspiration is this? I was not able to understand the why does he have to be so compassionate toward those who want to harm him? It's like Grandmaster is not forsaking a single sentient being. When we sing their praises, extolling their virtues, we need to reflect upon ourselves. What kind of virtues do we have? So when we sing or we chant Buddha's names, or the next point is self-visualization as our idams. Before reciting mantras, for instance, Grandmaster's mantra, we visualize Grandmaster appearing and then invite him to dwell upon our heads. And in the process of merging or becoming one, this is something I will go later go into later.
这个最重要的正
The
行
most
上面，
important part of the
我
practice,
们也
the
是
main
只是依
core
样
of the
画葫芦，
practice,
只有做到表面。
a lot of us only
如
do
果
the superficial.
我们有深入去做，应该这样讲。
However, if we go
照着仪
deeper,
轨在念，你就说根本上师出现，移到我们的
Grand
头顶
Master
变为一个
is
小的或者
appears
大
in
的
the
东
empty
西，
space and
去飘
then
离，
transforms into a
然
pearl
后
of light
动
and
一
then
声， 我
goes
们
to
就
into
跟
our
他合一，
enters
变为
us,
根本上
and
师。
then
请
we
问你真的
merge.
有变吗？
You do this
你有没有怀疑过？
process,
为
you
什
follow
么
the
我
steps,
没有？
but do
你
you
有感
really
觉
do
到
you
我变
truly
为师尊
transform
吗？
into
你有
Grand
感觉
Master?
到我
Do
变了
you
吗？
feel yourself transforming into Padma
一点
Kumara?
感觉都没有。
If you don't
为
have
什么？
the slightest feeling,
我不是照
why
着
is
仪
that?
轨做了吗？
Aren't we following the
没有，
ritual, the sadhana, the ritual procedure?
因为我们都是做表象。
Because we are only
请师恩
doing
出
the
现的时候，
superficial steps. It's
一秒
visualizing
然后一
Grandmaster
秒又
appearing
来，
very
一
quickly
秒
in
又
1
下来，
second.
一秒就
Then
变，
he goes,
我
he
们只是
travels
在
to the
变
top of our
化，
heads
所
and
以
then
不可
enters
能。
us.
我们做的是
We're not
空
just
心的
doing
观想。
magic. This is
如
hollow
果你有实
practice.
际的
If you are
好好的去
truly
招请，一步一步的做的话，
invoking and doing
当
it
师尊驻
properly,
顶的时
when
候，你可
Grandmaster
以感受
dwells
到你
upon your
全
crown,
身的磁
you
场
will
跟能量
feel
全
the
部改变。
energy in your throughout your whole body transforming.
所以自观本尊更不要讲
So
说
when you
师尊
visualize
介绍
yourself
我
as your
们的内
idam,
心与我们合一的时候，你的整
not to
个
mention
磁场是
Grandmaster
会发生变化。
entering to
所
you,
以这个时候
your
才
vibrations
能
will
够让我
change,
们的
your energy will
这个
change,
觉
and
照
only then
跟
will
我们
our
的慈悲，因
awareness,
为你
our
跟
insight,
师尊合一
our
的状态之
compassion,
下，你的慈
because
悲
of your
是
merging
胜利
with
的，师尊的
Grandmaster,
慈悲变成我们的，你不
Grandmaster's
再是原来
compassion
的那个
becomes
我。
yours.
我
It
简
is
单
you are
讲
no
一个简
longer
单
the
的事
original
情，让
you.
大家去体会。好，我
Just
常举一个例
a
子，
simple
我在
analogy.
燃灯
When
每
I
次
worked
要
at
写文章的时
Bantung
候，然
Enlightenment
后
magazine, when I was trying to write articles
写
or
不出
essays,
来的时候，
I
然后每
wasn't
个礼
when
拜
I
都
was
不
not
同样
able
的
to
法
write.
会，我哪能写出？为什
Every
么一
week
场
there's
一
a
场
Dharma
不一样？写
ceremony.
不出来，
Why
我
is
就
every
请师
Dharma
恩做
ceremony different? I
我
would
就开始
I
先
would then invoke Brahmaster
把
to
心
dwell
放
upon
下来，
my
让它
crown.
持
I
着，
would settle
先
my
这样
heart,
子。
recite mantra, pray
这
for
个
his
时候身
blessing,
体的能量
and
就
at
不
this
是
time the energy in my body would
我
change.
的念头变得非
I
常
would
的
feel
清
my
楚。
mind
等到
becoming
我的
very
眼睛再
clear
打
and
开，
lucid.
大概
And
大
when
概
I
3
open
分
my
钟的时间，
eyes
等
after
到我
3
的眼
minutes,
睛再打开的时候，
when I open my eyes
脑袋
again,
清楚的不得
my
了，
mind would be extremely
那
clear
个写作的灵感自己
and
就会出来。
inspiration would flow
所
naturally.
以这个自观
So
本尊的时候，
this
是可以帮助
visualization
我
of
们
yourself
跟
as your
本尊
idam
更
is
接
able
近。如
to
果有好好做的时候，
to bridge that
所以
connection between yourself and your
自
idam,
观
to
本
shorten
尊，
the
请根
distance.
本上师
So
让
when
本
you
尊觉得
invite
你得
your
到
idam
神
or
的
grandmaster to
加
dwell
持，
upon your
整个
crown,
人可以
you
安
receive the
住，可
blessing
以
of the
静
Dharma stream, you're
磁场
able
可
to
以
settle your
稳定，
mind,
可以
your
清
energy
澈，
becomes
浑
stable,
浊的水
peaceful.
变得很
From
清澈，
turbid, murky
脑袋
water,
清
it
楚，
becomes clear
深
and
入
lucid.
体会，
You
你
would
就会
naturally give
在
rise to
学会这
wisdom,
观的时
and
候，
you are
在
cultivating
关照
wisdom. You are
做很多事
cultivating
情，
one
你
or
该做
visualization,
怎么办？
contemplation,
好，
observation.
所以这个
The
是
things
非
that you're
常
trying
重
to
要的。
accomplish
我
will
刚才
become
在上
accomplished
面
more
说，
easily.
所
And
有
with only
自
6 minutes
观、
left,
泛
left,
拜
I
跟
will
法
go more
义的
quickly.
关照，
So the connection
灵
between
思
Fan
修、
Bai and
循序实践。
the meaning
我
of the
们在
Dharma.
念经文的时候，
When we
当
recite
这个经
sutras,
文跟理解
one is
经文的
listen,
意
is
义。比如
hearing.
说佛说《阿弥陀经》里面
For
讲，
instance, the
若
Buddha
七日
spoke
一
of
心
the
不乱，
Amitabha
不听
Sutra.
念，世
When
人
your
终时心不
mind
颠倒。 请
is
问
focused and your mind is not
什么
topsy-turvy,
是一心不乱？什么是心不颠
may I
倒？
ask what is
我们如何
not
去
having
做
a
到一心不乱、心不
topsy-turvy
颠
mind
倒？
and
如
wholehearted,
果不知
one
道的时候，
single-minded focus
你没有办法
mind?
随这个文、随这个
If
经文
you
去观啊。
are not
你要
able
去
to
经文的
contemplate
在
according
念
to
经
what
的
is
时
mentioned
候，
in the
听
sutra,
完之后要去
you might
思维，
hear
灵
the
思
sutra,
修，
but you have
要去
to
思
then
维
think think about. You have to contemplate its meaning. What exactly is this Dharma talking about? It's not just about reciting the sutra very quickly and just reciting it. The sentence is uttered very quickly, but does it give rise to its function? Because you don't understand, then it gives rise to very limited function or purpose. So we have to understand the meaning of the sutra. So we talked about single-minded focus and not having a topsy-turvy mind. It's about concentration, wholehearted, single-mindedness. Not having a topsy-turvy mind is in being in the state of 止 or cessation. 闻思 show when is listening, 思 is contemplation, show is cultivation. This is a way for us to tame or regulate our mind to as an antidote to afflictions, and then we transform to actions, actual actions. And what we mentioned just now about the Heart Sutra, having true insight into its meaning. Form is not different from emptiness. Emptiness is not different from form. When we recite it, we can't just recite it superficially. We need to really learn what is nothing to be gained and internalize the wisdom in the sutras, and then practice letting go of our attachments to many things. These teachings of the Dharma need to be internalized, prajna wisdom, becoming prajna wisdom. So when you recite sutras in a hollow way, it needs to become more substantial through your deepening understanding of the Dharma, the insights that you gain, the inward reflection, the introspection. Those need to be imprinted. The words of the Dharma, the sutras, need to be imprinted upon your heart. And with the meaning of the Dharma, you will be able to enter into visualization or contemplation. The emotions that we have and the visualizations of resonance. Do you visualize the sufferings of the 6 realms, which will evoke compassion, sympathetic compassion, or empathetic compassion? When you recite the merit dedication verse, when you recite it, are the words imprinted upon your heart? I don't know. Or is it again just hollow recitation? Or do you truly give rise to a mind of aspiration that all who recite the name of Buddha will ascend together to the Buddha land, and we are truly repaying the kindness of the fourfold benefactors and wanting to benefit the 6 realms, the beings in the 3 realms below? Do you truly give rise? Have I truly given rise to that mind when making the merit dedication? Am I just reciting in a hollow manner? There is also our mind. Is it a very weak or a very strong intent? Merit dedication, what is the energy level? How strong is it? This is also a part of Guan Zhao, contemplation or visualization. Or are you just reciting it and even thinking that what a long verse, I can't, when is this going to end? If you recite it in that manner, just with your mouth, then is it meaningful? So when we make our merit dedication, when you sing, you have to also observe yourself. Do you give rise to compassion and a mind of aspiration? So these 4 points about entering contemplation, visualization, entering Guan, whether through sound or through form or through the text or through emotions, visualization. Okay, it's 9. Let me speak for 5 more minutes. Correspondence between the inner and outer state. From sound, we begin from sound, we're able to observe inwardly, what exactly are we doing? Cultivation begins with one's mind. When we contemplate, observe ourselves, we start to cultivate our wisdom, and we can start to behave in accordance with right teachings. It will be able to, you'll be able to focus your mind. When you perform prostrations, your body will also teach us to become more reverent and sincere. The external behavior, the postures can influence our state of mind. So, as in the first lesson, there were 5 qualities of purity. If your mind is harmonious and elegant, the sound that you produce will be that. Your inner state of mind will naturally be reflected in your sound. So if you are anxious or panicking, the sound that you emit will also be that. Or if your mind is turbulent, the sound that you produce might be harsh. It can be, as we mentioned in last class, a person hitting the singing bowl in a very loud manner. Even the way you open the door, the sound, some people close the door with a loud bang. It shows that their mind is in that very coarse state. If your mind is in a very subtle state, you will close the door quietly and it will not be with a loud bang. I've also seen other people ringing the Vajra bell, and I questioned or I wondered, why is the sound so coarse? It doesn't sound like the Vajra bell of a particular deity. So this is a counter example or a negative example. What is a proper or correct example? Look at how Grandmaster rings the Vajra bell, the rhythm of his voice, the very stable, steady rhythm. His inner state is very peaceful, his compassion and his wisdom naturally reveals itself. And when you read Kishigaba Sutra, the kinds of sounds that it describes, compassionate sound, the sound of equanimity and relinquishment, the sounds that you produce will reflect the kinds of energy, whether positive or negative, that you have. And I will repeat again, chanting does not equal fan bai. External deportment or wei can also affect the inner state, the inner mind. When we adjust our outward deportment, external behavior, it will also affect our inner mind. When you place your palms together reverently, actually your mind has already started to focus and return to the present moment. Just by placing your palms together, your scattered thoughts have also been gathered. When we hold up Dharma instruments or ritual instruments, some hit the instruments in a very scattered manner, but you can be very focused on every sound. Your attention is on your ritual instruments. And when you hear the sounds, if it's very coarse, then you would pay attention. You would remind yourself to become to regulate your own mind. So outward external behavior can also affect the inner state. So let's do a summary or conclusion. The actualization of spiritual cultivation through fan bai. The previous slide, can we tame and regulate our 3 karmas and through introspection or inward contemplation? observation
让我们的内跟外
through sound.
外在跟内在都能够相应，能够调育自心。所以
Is there a resonance
整个
between
本
the
节的总社，今天这个
internal and
总
the
结
external?
今天的课程，战败
Conclusion
修
or
行
summary of
的
today's
总
class?
社，下一页，由因入道的修行路径，第一个修行的本质，
The
梵拜并非课诵
fundamental
或
nature
者是
of
唱诵，而是
sound.
体
Fanbai is not
当
just
我们
about
的生
chanting,
命
it's
跟佛
the
法
science of
一起
sound,
贯
and
穿日常课
it is
诵。
based on the science of sound and
第二
also
个
the
由
teachings,
散
Dharma
入
teachings,
止，纠止修定，透过如法常
pervading
诵
our
调理
daily
身口意
spiritual
三业，
cultivation,
稳定和雅的生活
from
为
scattered
宗旨。我们就静下
entering
心，
into
引
cessation.
导散
When
乱
we
的信
listen
念
to
趋向专
sounds,
一跟
we
安
can
住，
focus our
修的
minds
是止。
and transform a scattered mind into
接
a
着
focused mind
水已
to
经沉淀
be
了之后，
peaceful
我们就可以
abiding.
由止入观，在安定
When
的
the
基
water
础
has
上，
settled,
借由观
building
生
upon that
生灭， 这
foundation
个就是
of
修
being
慧，对不
settled,
对？
we begin to
随着
cultivate
内
wisdom.
观或本尊
Um,
观想，把音声
We
改
enter
化
contemplation
为
of
修
visualization
定慧
through
的
the
愿
text
力
of the
的
sutra,
媒介。
or we think of the
最后，
Buddha's
内
bodhisattvas,
在
vows, and
外
aspirations,
内在的清
and
净觉照显发于我们外
then
在的音声观
subsequently
外在的
the
如法修持，在反
interaction
观
between the
内心
internal
影
and the
响内
external,
外，
how they affect each
循
other,
环生
and
生不
reflect
退的一
each
种
other.
修行循环。
It's
最
a
后，
cycle,
契约的时
becomes a
候，
cycle
最终
in our spiritual
因生
cultivation.
摄心导向理
And
性
finally,
安住，生
relying
命
upon
放下，
sound to
我
focus
将
our
什么都
mind.
要放下，一切都要放
And
下了，才有
when we
办法
enter,
回归到灵照见自信跟
and we
契入实
enter, well, we have to let go
这
of
是今
even
天的
sound
课程。
to enter
那
into
下个礼
zero,
拜我们讲要大家去
to
观察
um,
生活中的生
attain
命。
insights
这
into
一
truth.
周的功课哦，这是不用缴的功课，是你自己
So
做去
this
体
week's
会，因
homework,
为你不能只有听
for
我
you
讲，听我
to
讲，你没有
experience
念
for
到，所以你
yourself.
很
You don't
难
have to
体
summon
会。
anything.
好，所以第一
If you
个
don't internalize
第
it,
一
it's not
周就
yours.
是去
So for
体
this
会，
week,
也就
you
是
can
观
learn
身
about
摄
Shi
心。
or cessation.
我们在
Rely
持咒
upon
在念
sound
佛的时
to
候，
focus your
你
mind.
看
When
自
you
己有
recite
没有
mantra,
把念头
observe
收摄起
whether
来，
your
摄
mind
心，对不对？
has
专一在你
become
持
focused
咒的每一
on
个
your
字，每一
sound,
个
on
声
every
音哦，每一
single
句咒。
sound
比如
syllable
说
of your
唵
mantra.
阿弥得哇塞6个
For
字
instance,
的这种，
every single
你
syllable
的
of that
音
mantra,
你
not
有没有
just the
办法
mantra.
专注在上面？
Are you able
然后
to
你
focus
专
your
注
mind
的
on
时间
every
有多久？
single
1分
syllable,
钟，
every single
还是
sound?
只有
And
5
for how
句？
long?
一
What is
下
the
子又有
duration?
妄念进来，你就又不能专注。
Are
这
you
是
only
一
able
个
to
长
recite
期的
5
训练。
mantras
我们能
before
够
your
专一的
discursive
研
thought
止， 我
creeps
们
in?
好这
How
样子
long
是。
can your
之后呢，
concentration last? And
这
then
个定
after,
下来以后，我
when
们
you
学
have
观察
become
观一
stable,
样就好，观
you
音
learn
声
about
声音，
contemplation or
去观察
visualization,
我自己的
observation.
声音，
You
外
only have to
面的
observe
声
one
音。
thing. Observe
这个
sounds,
世
they
界的
are
声音过后
arising
就
and
消失
cessation.
了，它的生跟灭，
So
去
sounds
去
vanish just
观
after a
察，
moment.
去思维，声音
Contemplate
在哪
on
里？
their impermanent nature. Where does sound come from?
无，从
From
空
nothingness,
出
from
现，
emptiness.
1秒不
It
到1秒，
arises
它就
and
又不
then
见了。
for a second or not
从
even a
所
second,
谓的
it
缘起性空，
disappears and it
念头
returns
也是
back
如此
into
哦。
emptiness or
所以这
nothingness.
一周就是
It's
大
the
概
same
就
with
是
thoughts.
止
Our,
跟观，
so for this
好
week,
吗？那今天的课
learn
程就
about
是这
um,
个声音，就是在我们
shamatha
日
and
常生活
vipassana
中
or
的这种
cessation and
好，
visualization.
那
This
今天
is
的课程就是跟大家
something
介
that you
绍
can
这个
find
莲
throughout
花
your
法，
daily
阿弥
life.
陀佛。
And that's the end of our class today. Amitabha.
阿弥陀佛，感谢莲位上师这么
Amitabha.
精
Thank
彩
you,
的授
Master
课。
Liang Wei, for
那
your
接下来
exciting
是我们
class.
释疑解
And
惑的
now
环
it's
节，
the
请大
Q&A
家把
section
你的问
of
题
our
发
lesson.
上来，
Please
我们会
post
请
your
莲位上
questions
师
in
为
the
我们
chat,
做详
and
细
we will
的解
invite Master
说。
Liang Wei to provide
麻
detailed
烦后台
replies.
现在有问题，
So,
请发上
are
来
there
吗？
questions?
没有问题也是可以的哈。
Master Liang says, if there are no questions, that's also fine. We don't necessarily have to have questions. You have to first practice to realize if there are any questions. If you haven't started practicing, then you will not have any questions. Because Master Liang has mentioned so many key points. Maybe I've given stuffed you too many points, but digest it. First digest, then only then will you be able to absorb. So you might be suffering from indigestion right now. It's true. I actually do feel a little bit of indigestion right now from the amount of information. So in any case, 指 cessation. Focus your mind on sound, and that's the length or duration of your 指. Let me repeat that again. Rely on sound to cease, to focus your mind and practice concentration. Then observe its arising and cessation. This will actually help us to generate wisdom, to give rise to wisdom, and to learn impermanence. You just have to remember this, that's all. You don't have to remember too much. Just these 2 points are already very difficult because, as Master mentioned just now, when we recite mantras, to be focused on every single sound, each syllable of a mantra. Okay, here's the first question. Is it is it okay to use short versions of mantras to practice restraint or cessation? Master replies, whatever you use is fine. You can also use reciting Buddha's names to gather your minds or focus your minds. So basically, it's focusing your mind on every single sound to not let your thoughts run away. So if you want to recite the short mantra, that's also okay. If you recite the 100-syllable mantra, then maybe you have to recite it a little slower because you might not be able to catch up. Here's another question. So, for example, if we are going to start practicing now, then would you recommend practicing with a shorter mantra, or for example, the 100-syllable mantra is much longer? Master Ning replies, maybe you can start with Pamakumara mantra, or I didn't think that anyone would begin with using the 100-syllable mantra as a way to practice this. Okay, thank you, everyone. Oh, no questions. That's great. Because we haven't practiced, so there are no questions. Questions have not been generated. Have you ever? Maybe isn't mantra chanting supposed to be easy? The next time you press a counter to recite mantras, don't recite it so quickly that it just passes. So this week, let us all practice how to use sound to focus our minds, and then to practice 止, and then to practice 观, contemplating the impermanent nature of sound. And that's the end of our class today. Let us use a great heart to thank Grandmaster and to thank Master Liang Wei. Okay, for those who are suffering from indigestion, you can listen to the class a few more times to see whether you understand the class. Okay, I feel that, yes, I need to listen to this class a few more times. So the next Friday, we will continue to invite Master Liang Wei to teach this course. The next lesson, part 3, invoking the keys of invoking Buddhas and Bodhisattvas through Brahma sound, Fan Yin. Master Liang Wei will explain what exactly are we praising when we sing the incense praise and in praise of purity. May everyone please attend the class punctually on time. And let's thank our Indonesian interpreter, DA Payfen, and all the back-end volunteers helping out behind the scenes.
线上的莲花童子们，我们下周再见哦。 恭请上师
See
跟
everyone next
学员
week.
道别。
好，谢谢今天所有的工作人员、翻译人员、主持人哦，
And thank you everyone, all
授师
the
法师、
people
讲师
helping
助
out
教，
behind
还
the
有联合
scenes.
上师，不好意思，我刚
Master
每
Lian
次都
Her,
忘
Senior
记开头
Reference,
跟大
and
家问候。好，各位
Reference
师
and
兄师姐，
everyone,
大家晚
Dharma
安
Pop
哦，
Leaders
阿弥陀
and
佛，
Dharma siblings.
彩珍，拜拜，
谢谢上师，晚安。
拜拜，
Thank you,
谢谢大
Master. Good
家。
night. Thank you,
上师阿弥
everyone.
陀佛。
大家也可以开麦跟上师说话哦。
谢谢
谢谢
上师，
上师，下周见。
感
谢谢
谢
上师，
消化不良的自己
谢谢上师
洗澡的时候，
谢谢上师，
谢谢
辛
阿弥
苦很多，
陀佛
谢谢
感谢，
上
洗澡的时
师，下周
候有水
见，
可以帮助你再思
大
考一下
家晚安，
哈。好，大家晚安，拜拜。
拜拜，
谢谢上师，
日堂哦，
大家
林志堂的法师，阿弥陀佛，拜拜。讲师助教，拜拜。
谢谢立上师，
好，法师
谢谢
哈，
上师，
阿弥陀佛，好好，哎，
拜拜，下线了，拜拜
下
了，
次见了，拜拜哈，好，
谢谢上师，
不会不会，不客气哈，好
谢谢上师，
，OK，阿弥陀佛，
阿弥陀佛，谢谢上师哦，这不忙，
好好，
谢谢上师，
谢谢上师，谢谢法师，
谢谢上师，谢谢法师，很好忙。
我想念我体面啦，体面。